Welcome to the Movies the Damn podcast. My name is Kyle Grant, and I'm sitting here, as always, with my friend and published horror author, John Hunt. If you enjoy what you hear here today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Instagram and Twitter, at Damned Movies. Email us any questions, comments, and suggestions to moviesthedamned@gmail.com. For further details on John's published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.ca. Today, we'll be discussing Vincente De Santi's 2017 Friday the 13th fan film, Never Hike Alone. Adventure hiker Kyle stumbles across Crystal Lake Camp and learns for himself that Jason is real after all. After a deadly battle, Kyle finds himself severely hurt, but is rescued at the last moment by paramedics. John, opening thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, so I saw an advertisement, I guess on Twitter, announcing that they're going to do a sequel to this, Never Hike Alone sequel, and it's going to be based in the snow. And I remember I watched this maybe a year or so ago, and I was like, wow, this is for a fan film? I was really blown away. And I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th, so I might be geeking it out here or just, adding nostalgia to something that maybe you weren't as impressed with, but I really enjoyed this film. I watched it again last night, and I enjoyed it again. It brought back some good Jason memories, and actually, to me, it made Jason scary again. Whereas they were fun, right? Part 6 and Part 7 and Part 8, and the other ones, they were fun, but they were not scary in the way that, to me, anyways, Friday the 13th Part 3 was scary.
Well, for me, to be completely honest with you, just to rewind for a second, when you messaged me last week and said that you wanted to do this movie next, I thought you were joking with me that you wanted to do a fan film for the podcast. Because I've never been a huge Friday the 13th fan. Like, I've seen a bunch of the movies. I haven't seen nearly all of them like you have, but I was just really surprised that you wanted to watch a fan film. But then after watching this, I can see why. This was very well done, as you said, has a lot of great aspects to it. And I think something that you said to me is that when you're watching it, you felt like this could have been in the movie theaters, like this could have been professionally done. And I felt the exact same way.
Oh, absolutely. Like some of the screeners or some of the films that we get sent by people, up and coming production companies, up and coming filmmakers. This surpasses some of them and is on par with others, and I think I totally think it would be something to watch in the theaters. Like I really enjoyed this film, and I think with the reception it's received on YouTube, I think a lot of people are enjoying it as well.
I think something that this film did very, very well is that it kept things simple. And that's
Yes.
something that you've heard me say in the past when we're dealing with these more independent type films is don't try and do too much, because sometimes when you try and do too much and you don't have the budget, it just doesn't come across well. It doesn't look very good. And so I thought that they did a very good job in this film of keeping it simple. And as I kind of mentioned in the summary, it follows kind of adventure hiker Kyle, who is on in most scenes and tons of screen time, obviously. And I think that he does a fantastic job. And I think that his quality of acting really helped increase the overall quality of this film.
Oh, absolutely. He did yeah, I totally agree with you. He did a great job. And going back to what you were saying there about keeping it simple, like this really isn't, and like most slashers aren't anyways, but this isn't really a complicated plot, right? Like Jason guards the borders of what he considers Camp Crystal Lake. You come on his turf, he's going to kill you, right? And that's been the premise for, I would say, for the first 4 movies, right? It's just like, don't go near where he's haunting or where he's living. He's protecting those woods because that's what he saw his mother do, and you know what I mean. So it's just like, it's very simple, and they brought it right back to that. And they also included some backstory that Kyle happened to know about with Jason and the legend of Crystal Lake. he didn't think it was real, and a lot of times you wouldn't think something like that is real, and he stumbles onto the actual campground where it all took place those many years ago with all the little crime scene ribbons still flittering in the breeze. And I gotta say, like I really enjoyed this film. I don't it, it brought back I don't I liked it when Jason ran after his victims, which is why I thought part three and part two and part three kind of made him scarier. He didn't really run that fast, maybe more so in part three, but um, in this one he did the fast walk or whatever, but he still moved fast enough where I was like, okay, he knows how to move around this camp, and it was plausible to me that he was able to get in front of Kyle in certain instances.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with anything you said there, John. Like you're going to hear us throughout this podcast say a lot of good things about this film. The one thing that I absolutely loved is kind of how it was presented, how it was like a combination between almost found footage and not found footage, like a regular sequence. I liked how they kind of mixed the two together.
Yeah, it was like a video diary, right? But it also had outside camera work, so um, which I appreciate. I think I like having third person narrative. A lot of people, first person narrative has its place, especially like in writing or whatever, because you get more in depth inside the main character's head. It's just it gets you more personally involved with the main character. First person narrative. I particularly don't like to write in first person narrative because I feel like, to me, anyways, this is an opinion thing. You're leaving a lot out, right? A lot of other characters that you can explore and other characters that you could see and what they're doing, and maybe some of the background that you wouldn't necessarily be able to see from a first person narrative because you're only looking at the world through one person's eyes. Whereas with third person, you can jump from character to character and see the world in brand new, different ways from each viewpoint. And I personally like third person narrative better, and I think this one was a good mix. So it showed you like, okay, why is this guy hiking alone? Oh, that's why. Why is this guy going here? Oh, that's why. So it all made sense, and then you drew out and see, you know, Jason watching, right? Because you wanted to have that person in the background always being there, always, kind of like the Michael Myers vibe, where it's just like he's there, you just don't know where he is, and the suspense is waiting for him to show up. And I think they did a great job with that.
No, definitely. And for me, when you do have a little bit of that kind of found footage esque type thing, even though we've seen it so many times, it almost makes it feel more real. And I just like that it was there a little bit, but it wasn't there throughout, so you didn't get sick of it, and then it wasn't totally a found footage piece. But to build off what you just said earlier, it made sense why he was out there. It made sense that he was kind of a YouTuber and he was filming footage of his adventure hiking, and he stumbles upon this camp. So there's kind of really no bad decisions there as to why he's out there alone, why once he stumbles upon it, he goes to check it out because he had heard the stories, he'd heard the legends. So I didn't really find a bad decision in either of those things.
Absolutely. Like to him, it was a 30-year-old myth, right? And you see, a lot of times, I guess urban legends, or this would be a rural legend, but legends of those sorts, they start maybe in a real place, but the events are usually exaggerated over time, right? It's like the broken telephone, right? So it's just like over time, the events get bigger and bigger and bigger. So even though he realizes he stumbled upon the place of Camp Crystal Lake and he sees, crime scenes of what, Jason's mother had done back in the day, or even Jason had done back in the day, it's not really, to him, that fraught with danger because, like I said, it's like a 30-year-old thing. There's such a disconnect from when it actually happened to him actually arriving on scene that he's just more curious. It's still the adventure mindset.
Yeah, he's more curious and he has the adventure mindset where he's like, oh, this will be some, I'll get some great views from this.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that? You cut out there for a bit.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. the adventure mindset, and not only is he curious, but he also looking for those views like any YouTuber would be.
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's a great opportunity for that, right? To stumble upon something like that, stumble upon a legend, and you're actually in the place where the legend took place. Like that'd be any YouTuber's or any type of adventure person's dream, really.
No, exactly. So he kind of stumbles to the camp, and he's kind of on like the borders of it, as you've described. And it kind of, I had one issue with that. Kind of that it's kind of a cool camera angle where Jason makes his first appearance there, and literally right beside Kyle, and then Kyle turns towards where he's standing an instant later, and then Jason, what's going on there?
So I knew you were gonna bring that up when I watched it last night. I'm like, this is the only part that I saw where I think Kyle's gonna have an issue with, right? And
Like,
all I could say, like for from a realism standpoint, he was way too close, and for him to have disappeared like that, he's not Houdini, right? Uh, it was interesting just to show. I think for me, I think what the director was trying to illustrate was Kyle hadn't exactly crossed over into the no trespassing zone. I think that no trespassing zone is kind of like the borders of what Jason's turf is, right? So Kyle hadn't actually crossed over yet, so it wasn't like Jason could have reached out and killed him right then. But if you're going towards the Friday 13th myth or the legend from the original ones, right? Like not the later on ones where he's, walking around New York killing people, but it's more from the original standpoint where he was protecting that land or protecting his turf. Kyle hadn't trespassed yet, so he didn't feel the need to kill him. Now the disappearing act, yeah, I would agree that that's the only implausible part I saw, other than him getting demasked later. But other than that, um, that's the only. I would agree with you there that it might have been better to do it in a more subtle way.
yeah, definitely. And but as far as imposters go, like another impossible thing that popped in my mind is how do the paramedics find him at the end? He's in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, so they didn't really elaborate on that or anything like that, but it just could have been. Um, I can't even hypothesize about that one. So maybe the director should have shown how, like, maybe they're coming back from a coffee run or they just dropped the patient off at a hospital and they're on the way back to the house, and they ran across Kyle in the roadway, right? Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you about
Yeah,
that one.
because when from what he was describing is like he wasn't near any roadways. He was gonna have it all. I have to go back and grab my stuff and hike around here and try and put this trail, and that's my one chance.
Yeah, but he knew that trying to find that one trail, taking him closer to um, taking him closer to where he wanted to be, would bring him closer to civilization, where take him back to the roadway. So I think he was trying to get to a place where he could run into another person. But once again, this is all speculation because they didn't show that part at all.
Yeah, and I didn't have a huge issue with the paramedics being there at the end because I thought it led to some really cool scenes. Like I thought kind of like the hallucinations, kind of like the back and forth. Is he in the back of the ambulance? Does Jason have control of him? Kind of that back and forth was kind of a really cool sequence.
Yeah, so that was that whole ending had a lot of. So like I said, I'm a big fan of these films, the Friday 13th films, anyways, and so that whole ending sequence was very interesting. So um, the hallucinations of seeing Jason when he wasn't there, that was a Tommy Jarvis thing from A New Beginning, and where he kept thinking he saw Jason when he wasn't there, right? And the guy, one of the paramedics in the background was named Axel, and there was like a doctor, medical personnel named Axel in Friday 13th Part 4, the final chapter. He gets killed at the very beginning, and he's also um, he was watching, the 20-minute workout. Excuse me. He was watching the 20-minute. He was just a pervert, and he said inappropriate things, um, and which is what this other paramedic did. And then the older paramedic driver, that was actually Tommy Jarvis from Friday the 13th Part 6. It was that character. And I don't know if you'll remember him, but he was also from Return of the Living Dead. And um, so there's a lot of like nostalgia stuff. Like, so if you're a fan of the series, you would recognize all that stuff and you would see it. Um, but I also really liked that whole sequence. It was, it made it very dark. And also like that's the first time Jason got to kill anyone in this film, was at the very end, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. Yeah.
so that was a lot of fun actually. The ending.
And that whole sequence would mean a lot to fans of the series because, as you said, Tommy Jarvis was from the series. He was from Friday the 13th Part 6,
Hmm.
and so I'm sure that huge fans who watch this, as soon as they see him, that really puts this over the top as a fan film, I would assume.
For sure. So the actual character Tommy Jarvis was in 4, 5, and 6,
Yeah.
but the guy who played Tommy Jarvis in Part 6 was the ambulance driver there. So which is really cool. I thought, anyways. I when I first watched it and he popped in, I was like, oh my god, Tommy's back. And of course, the guy's name was Tommy, right? So it was very interesting. And then at the very end, where he says to Jason, "Remember me, maggot head?" He says those words in Friday the 13th Part 6 when he's trying to
Oh,
lure
really?
yeah when he's trying to lure Jason into the boat so he could towards the boat anyways, so he could put a rock with a chain on it so we could pin him to the bottom of the lake. So it's like there's a lot of stuff that was in that ending that is like it was just a lot of fun. And if you're and it is a fan fiction like a fan film, so you norm it's kind of written for the fans of the franchise. You know what I mean? So people who are huge fans of the franchise would see all that and recognize all that and enjoy it, right? Which is what I did, anyways.
No, no, definitely. And there's a lot of fun things in this movie, and there's also some gruesome things. Like the one scene that really got me is when Kyle is like stitching up his own leg.
I know. That was
I
interesting.
would never be able to do something like that. It was so gruesome.
I know I wouldn't be able, like it's one of those things I probably could, and I think you could too. We could probably both do it if we had to, but doing it while you're trying to be quiet and someone's trying to kill you is a totally different thing, right? Like I'd probably do it and go ah, ow, ow, right? Like it'd be very very hard to be quiet for that. That's for sure.
No, no, definitely. And I just can't even imagine putting myself in that spot, having to be in that position. I hope I never am, but maybe you're right. Maybe we could be able to do something like that. I just hope I never have to find out.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Some cool things about this movie, as we've kind of already talked about, it has our praise. It has the praise of a ton of Friday the 13th fans, and it's kind of widely regarded as one of the best Friday the 13th fan-made films ever. And I think that's why it's kind of built a bit of a following, and then has all these kind of prequels and sequels set.
Mm-hmm.
So as of now, they have it set for one prequel and then three sequels to come out. So the first one up is the prequel, which is titled Never Hike in the Snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be set 3 months before the events of this film, and we'll follow this strange disappearance. Then we'll get into the sequels, and the titles of these sequels is actually pretty ridiculous. Never Hike Alone 2, Never Hike Again. Never Hike Alone 3, Jason Takes Crystal Lake, and Never Hike Alone 4, The Final Hike. Like they're just like so like cheesy, over the top, ridiculous titles, but I kind of love them for some reason.
Well, for sure, they're like the films from the past, right? Like Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, right? Like it's just it's an ode to those fun titles.
No, it definitely is. And since there's going to be so many of them, there is going to be over an overarching story throughout. And apparently, there's going to be a number of franchise alumni who are going to appear in the different installments, which I'm sure you're going to love, and you're going to be able to point them out right away.
Oh, I can't wait. Like I really can't wait. Like this, because there hasn't been like a Friday the 13th film since 2009 that have been put out by the studio, right? And I think Jason's due for a reboot for sure. Like they did a very great job with Halloween, I thought, anyways. And then, and while we're waiting for this, I know they're in some nasty litigation, or there's some problem with the film rights or franchise rights. Two movie studios or three movie studios are in the mix trying to figure this out. And in the meantime, like, we're waiting, right? And then Vincent DeSanti comes out with this, and it's just like, wow, this is great. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. And he's going to do more of these. Like, I'm so happy. Like, they should just, whoever gets the right should just hire this guy and just, here you go, man. Write, direct, enjoy.
Yeah, go right ahead. And guess who played Jason in this film?
Who?
Vincent DeSanti, the writer director.
No way. That's
Yeah, so
awesome,
he did it
man.
all. Because I thought he did a good job of it too.
He did a great job. Great job.
No, definitely. And so I couldn't really find anything on Rotten Tomatoes about this, but the best score I could find is on IMDb. It's listed at 6.9 out of 10,
Hmm.
which at first glance you might think, oh, that's kind of low, but again, for a fan-made movie, I think that's a really great score.
I think it's a fantastic score, and I don't know if the people that rated it were people who are Friday the 13th fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Like,
that's right. Like
that
you're
could
not
have
going to
been
get a
more
lot
of
of
a
people.
general audience, right? Like, like recently, my daughters have been watching horror movies with me for the podcast, and I mentioned I'm going to be watching this one, and like they just weren't interested, right? So it's
Well,
just,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, no, that makes complete sense, right? Because if you're not a huge fan of the franchise, you might be a little hesitant to watch this. So I completely get where they're coming from, right? But I think if they had taken the time, they would have enjoyed it. It'd be you don't have to have watched other films in this franchise to get what's happening here and do and enjoy this film.
I like from the way they enjoyed Halloween and stuff like that. I know they would enjoy this film. It just takes, maybe we'll get around to watching it at some point, but it just takes someone other than their dad to say it's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I 100% know what you mean. Well, you know what? Maybe wait for the prequel and all the sequels to come out because they're coming out in quick succession, and you guys can sit down and binge watch them all over a few hours.
Oh, I'd totally do that, man. Totally
So,
do that.
this movie was made obviously very, very cheap. The budget came in a little under 19,000, and it was completely crowdfunded. And there's actually a crowdfunder going on right now on the site Indiegogo to help fund the prequel and the other sequels.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that, and I'm like, I hope people are pitching in, man, because this is it's worth the money. It's worth the money.
Oh, it definitely is. And then kind of looking at, obviously there's no box office, but if you go on YouTube right now, it's sitting as of the recording of this podcast at around about 1.6 million views.
Hmm.
And I tried to do some research as far as what is 1.6 million views worth on YouTube? And the answer is it depends. It
Yeah.
depends on a whole bunch of factors, but they say a good rule of thumb, but again, this varies, is about $1 per thousand views, which means that 1.6 million would make about $1,600.
Okay.
But again, it's not like the money to make this was taken out of their pocket. Um, sorry, $16,000, not 1,600. I actually realized my math was off. But
Yeah.
it's not like it was they paid the budget. It was completely crowdfunded. So really, anything they do make is just
A
all
bonus,
good at this point.
and
Yeah,
it's going to be
exactly.
rolled into the other films anyways. But it's also like YouTube's
I
different.
think so. I
Like,
would hope so.
yes, right. But YouTube's a different animal. So we have a YouTube channel, obviously, but we can't get monetized. Like, we won't get monetized until we have either 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 views of total for our videos, right? And then what they do is they place it in an algorithm, and then that algorithm gets sorted out to, okay, people watching these videos, what type of ads should we run, right? And then you get, and then then it goes on a popularity list. So for us, obviously, it'd be good to run horror movie ads on our YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
But depending on how popular we are, the it would that 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 sorry, I can't even talk right now. depending on how popular we are, that would depend on how many ads get directed to our channel, which would then, some of the money would filter back towards us. So it's definitely view and popularity driven, but also, like you said, there's so many different variables you got to take into consideration, right? So, and then they're going to look at, okay, do these guys swear on their site? Is it adult content? There's a lot of stuff that they do.
Oh, definitely. Tons of variables, and that's why I had such a hard time figuring out
For
exactly
sure.
what type of money they would have made, and that's why they kind of said it with general rule is that $1 per 1,000 views, which is kind of wild when you think of it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Um, well, we both enjoyed this movie. We both give it a thumbs up. You don't have to be a huge Friday the 13th film fan, sorry, to enjoy this film. Hop on YouTube, check it out. It's not a long movie. It's a little under an hour, John. Was it 50 some odd minutes?
Yeah, it's like 58 or 59 minutes.
Yeah, so hop on YouTube, check it out. You won't be disappointed, and then you can check out the prequels and the sequels, like I know both of us will.
I'm definitely going to. And if you happen to be a fan, like you said, like you don't have to be a fan of Friday the 13th to enjoy these films, because I think the suspense and the writing and everything was really well done. It was actually very creepy, and I don't really say that very often, so I really enjoyed this film. But if you're also a fan of Friday the 13th, you will get an enormous kick out of this. Like, this is a great time. Great time.
Well, buddy, anything else to add on this one?
That's a big negative.
Big negative. Well, then, folks, the only other thing we have for you is just the movie we're going to talk about next week. Uh, this is a movie I have never seen before. It's on Shudder, so for those of you with Shudder, hop on Shudder. For those of you without Shudder, make sure you subscribe and check out The Beach House. Now, John, I've never seen this movie, as I just said. I know nothing about it, and it is my plan to go into this movie with having learned nothing about it. So I'm not going to watch the trailer. I'm not going to read reviews. I'm not going to read a synopsis of it. I'm just going to simply sit down, click play, and see what it has to offer.
I think that's a good idea. I think you'll enjoy it. I haven't seen it yet either. So how I came across it, I was just looking at films to watch on Shudder, ones we haven't seen. And, I try to do different ones, right? Like, we'll sometimes review popular ones. And, you get a lot of good engagement out of that from our audience anyways. Like, they'll comment on what we've talked about and whether or not they agreed with us or not. And I love that stuff. So, but sometimes it's also good to pick one that, maybe not a lot of people have seen, and, just to give them an idea of what we thought of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Check it out with us and join us again next week and listen to us discuss. Folks, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook page, and follow us on both Twitter and Instagram at Damn Movies. We want to hear what you thought of today's podcast and any suggestions you have, especially in terms of what movies you would like us to discuss next. Send us an email to moviesofthedamned.com. Please also check out John's full-length novels. His first two novels, Dollhouse and The Tracker, are Amazon bestsellers. You can also order his novella Ballots, his book of short stories, Four Shots of Horror, and his newest novel, Off the Grid, all available on Amazon. For further details on John's other published works, please visit his blog, johnhuntfiction.ca. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
That's all, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Great week.